Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Love of Pages. Hopefully everybody's been enjoying our fun facial expressions. So this week, we are starting a new book, Jessica's Pick.
Artemis! The second book by the Martian author, Andy Weir.
Mm-hmm. And our second attempt at recording this first episode.
Our second attempt.
Stephen, you weren't supposed to tell anybody.
I want to make sure and get it out in front there. This was my mistake. So
losing audio files, it happens.
Yeah.
It does happen. But okay, so Jessica.
Yes.
Remind Stephen and I and tell our listeners, why are we reading Artemis?
Because it's been on my TBR list on my bookshelf since Artemis came out, which was a significant amount of years ago.
Like 2016, I think.
Yeah. Well, we can find out. I have the copyright somewhere. But
I think it was 2016. I could be wrong.
2017. But it
really?
2017. Yeah. So it's been sitting there for years, and I really enjoyed The Martian. And I thought, I think for this one, I let you guys choose between like several books that have been on my TBR list for a while. So
there were
you guys
options. I feel like
there were 3 options, but
now I want to be, does TBR disambiguate to be read?
Oh yes, to be read. Sorry, I live on Book Talk and other bookstagrams and stuff. It's all TBR.
I just wanted to make sure it wasn't some other crazy acronym that I was lost on.
Nope. Exactly what you think it is. But okay, so our cocktail of the evening. Jessica, we are drinking scotch.
Ish. But yes, scotch, because our character, Jazz, she first had a scotch moonshine.
That was not
bar. That was not scotch. And then when she went to her rich buddy, I don't even remember his name. Oh, T-Dog. Yeah, that's not his name, but T-Dog. He had actual real scotch. And she was like, can I taste that just so I can remember what it's supposed to taste like? Kind of moment. And I thought, we'll drink scotch. I don't have scotch, though, so I'm just drinking Crown, because it's good.
I like scotch, so I tend to keep it on hand. So I'm drinking Glenlivet. So that's what I was raised on, if that doesn't sound too bad.
It's mother's milk.
It's mother's No, it doesn't. I do like scotch. I just, my parents already think I'm an alcoholic. I don't need any more hard liquors on my shelf. No whiskeys.
I need to purchase it for you, so that way you're just receiving a gift.
Yes, and
you buy it.
Yes, I'll Venmo you later.
Glad we've worked this out.
For me, I have a thing that also has the name of a country in it.
Ooh.
It's Thai tea.
Thai tea.
I do love Thai tea.
It's so good.
I haven't had it before, and now I really want it. Now you've had a place that has it.
We will figure out how to socially distance and have you come over so I can make it for you. It's fine.
Yay!
We'll just go sit out on the patio. We're getting to a point where we might be able to do that again, since, it's not 300 degrees outside.
I know, right? Gotta work.
That's true.
Or we could do it the next time that we record Women's History.
Yes.
Ooh.
We could do that too.
I like it.
Real quick, if you want to see Jess's mom find out about her being an alcoholic, you can see the behind the scenes pre-show and post-show of this video podcast.
You're gonna murder
mom
me.
comes in by becoming a patron on our Patreon at patreon.com/Geek Elite Media.
You're gonna get me murdered, but
This is Stephen reminding me that I was supposed to say something at the top of this show, but I really failed to say because that's what happens. We got to talking about drinking, and then I forgot everything else.
Naturally.
But I'd like to do a special thank you to our Patreons who make this and all of the other episodes possible. If you're willing and able to support us, please find us on our Patreon page. There are plenty of extras to go along with those perks, like pre and post episodes where you get to watch us kind of make fools of ourselves and a little bit of our everyday lives.
I know. I'm also going to be working on this weekend an article on Dune, which I finished reading. So
yeah, and
I'm
it's
posting a little article of my thoughts on Dune. Yeah.
Plenty of time till that comes out now, so you can definitely talk about the book.
I know, right? I'm actually almost really upset because now I'm like, well, now I do need to read more Dune books.
There's so many.
There are so many of them, and it gets kind of crazy. I have no idea if I'm actually going to read the others, no matter how much I actually like the first one. I was like, no, I don't think I want to know what happens after all of this. Because this is setting up for something that could be potentially really bad. But,
Terrible.
Yeah, we'll see.
But okay, so let's jump into the book.
Yes.
Because as much as we love gapping, people do actually listen, I think, for the book. Maybe.
Yeah, they want book talk.
Our jury's still out on this one, but
Yeah.
So
My personality is nice too.
it's very good. I'm a big fan. With that, we jump into Artemis. So Artemis is a space station, space city.
Spaceport.
Spaceport?
Well, it's not quite a port. It's a space city. No, it's not a port because there's not people going elsewhere.
This is true.
So, yeah.
Is it a space city or a moon city?
People live on the moon in a place
It's a
called
moon city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People live in domes on the moon.
On the moon.
And the domes are mostly interconnected with tunnels. Sometimes you have to take a train to go to places like the visitor center.
Yes.
And the smelter.
Yes.
But in any case, we get introduced to our main character, Jazz, while she is basically dying.
Yeah.
She bought a cheap knockoff space suit or a used space suit and didn't repair it properly. And so she almost dies.
Yeah.
I really imagined her spacesuit being like real beat up looking. Like it's like gray with like brown patches and stuff. To the point that when we got to later on and people seeing her in the suit was important on a camera, I was like, well, why wouldn't they know who the person was with the janky ass suit?
No, I don't think it was that janky because I don't think anybody would let it get that janky. But it's like the fact that it's your life on the line, you're going to let like...
Yeah.
Even if it looks so pristine, you better triple check that thing before you go outside with no oxygen and radiation and just...
True.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she survives, and we come to find out that this was her training, her test to become an EVA guild member, which this was funny to me because guilds feel very old school.
Yeah.
Granted, in the 21st century, we still have guilds.
Mm-hmm.
We now call them licensing boards. But like the term guild feels very old.
We've got like the Screen Actors Guild.
This is true.
That is
But
true.
I still think the term is outdated at this point. I think people chose it because they're artisans.
Yeah, they're artisans and it's like the small town kind of thing, I feel like, to have weird words. It's like its own, although it's a city and it's owned by Kenya, it's, which that was the best thing to me, was Kenya just being like, you know what, we need money. We're close to the equator. Launching stuff from here is very easy. Why don't we just build a moon base and have people launch from here to go to the moon and just be tourists and play casino on the moon?
Well, not only that, but like, let's allow big multinational corporations to become one super mega international corporation so that they can pool all their resources to launch stuff to the moon.
Yeah.
And let's have no regulation on it.
Like, no, because you know what? Kenya doesn't have a lot of regulations, so you don't need to red tape anything. And Kenya became like the richest nation. one of the richest nations, which is very cool and very interesting. And Kenyans should read this book.
I mentioned it's probably based in something that's actually been floated, in some way, shape, or form. Because I feel like,
yeah,
like Andy Weir definitely talks to people about like, well, what are you guys really thinking about how to achieve these things?
Like he went in, like I feel like Andy Weir would be like going into like an economic class and being like just sitting there, and then like the professor's like, all right, Andy Weir has brought you a question. How would you make Kenya the second richest country in the world? Boom, go.
But it was all kind of started and established by, and Stephen, you listened to the audiobook, so how do I pronounce the administrator's name?
Ngugi.
Ngugi.
Yeah.
These names. Jazz is easy. Rudy I can handle. The rest of them just get real tough.
We've got Svoboda.
Svoboda is no bueno. And Tron T-Dog. We're just going with T-Dog. That's it. He's T-Dog. I'm done. Because I can't. Anyway. So we come to find out that Jazz is a strong, independent 24-year-old, 26-year-old. Like, I mean, she's not very old.
Mid-20s,
yeah. Sounds right.
Younger than most of us. And she works as a porter, but most of her income comes from smuggling.
Yeah, less than safe reporting.
So,
yeah, smuggling illegal goods such as flammables and, like, I think cigars was the first thing that we saw her smuggle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so stuff like that, because you don't want fire on a spaceport or city.
Well, and we learned that in this first third of the book. For those who are joining us, this portion, I guess we should probably have done this at the top. We're breaking
the chapters
into 3 parts. The first part is chapter 1 through 5. The second part is chapters 6 through, what did we decide?
Wait, you look at the description of the next episode if you want to find out what the next chapters are.
So chapters 1 through 5, everybody. This is going to be a real rough podcast, guys, because we're having to like go backwards and try and not do any spoilers.
One of the biggest things I know that I think is like we had hit in the first time that we had talked about all this stuff is like our impressions of the characters. Because I mean, I think what happens in the beginning is mostly establishing who these people are and what this world is. Just by like besides like a couple big plot points, we meet Jazz, who is the headstrong person that she is, and a few other people around her. She exchanges letters with a person on Earth, whose name I don't remember.
Oh,
was it?
Yeah, Kelvin.
Yeah, Kelvin. A man who's named after temperature.
Yes.
She exchanges letters with this man, and so we kind of get to learn a little bit about her past and the fact that she is still basically the person that she always was when she was a teenager.
She didn't really grow up.
Mistakes. And like we learn about this world of Artemis and a few people that she knows.
Yeah.
Trond, the big business guy who came to Earth or came to the moon because an accident had happened where his wife was killed, correct?
Yes, his wife was killed and his daughter went paralyzed beneath the waist down.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
He became
good.
Paraplegic,
yes.
Paraplegic. She can
yeah, so being on the moon is, what did they say, 1/6 of Earth's gravity, so that just helps her be significantly more mobile.
Which Earth's gravity becomes a huge thing because I feel like every like other page, it's like, oh well, I can do this because it's not hard. It's moon gravity.
I think it was T-Dog that like when he was gonna go get a lighter or another drink or whatever, he did a backflip over the couch, and that's just how he did a backflip over the couch, and then you hear Jazz be like, "Yeah, it's not that impressive. The moon is only 1/6 of Earth's gravity. Like everybody does it."
I feel like
Like, I wasn't impressed. I was just like, what the hell? Like, I feel like even if I had less gravity, I still would never flip over the back of the couch. Just
Like, why?
I can absolutely say I would, and I would be so excited every time, and I would hurt myself a solid 10% of the time.
I would hurt myself way too much. I would still manage to hurt myself.
Yep.
It is a little impressive.
With that one, I feel like so in the times that we hear people talk about moon gravity versus Earth gravity, they talk about it like it does give you superpowers, but I feel like there would be an inherent greater, like a greater strength to a person who's coming from Earth to the moon, because your muscle density would still be such as it would need to be for you to work on Earth's gravity.
Yes.
So if someone's busy and they come in and they're freaking Superman for like however long they're on the moon, at least at first.
So, like,
it's like Superman, right?
Mhm.
So like legit how he is like he would be normal on Krypton, but like because he's on Earth, he's like a god basically because of just the physics of the planet being so significantly different from the one he was born on. But then he was raised on the planet, so that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's a confusing one. I feel like you some negative benefits.
Maybe we shouldn't read too deep into
We shouldn't, because now I'm like, Superman is a lie, isn't it? That wasn't even a good explanation for why he's so
I mean, listen, there's a lot of questions to ask about Superman.
Speaking of explanations,
yes.
I struggled so much with the technical explanations.
Mhm.
Well, that's Andy Weir. I'm so sorry.
I'm just like I felt like I was reading Charles Dickens again, where I was like, okay, how far do I skim ahead to get to the next plot point?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this one I will say, and it could be the voice choice that it's just through jazz, whereas The Martian, some of the scientific pieces made more sense because the character was like a paleontologist on Mars astronaut. So like him going on these tirades, monologuing to himself to stay sane, makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
But Jazz going on long monologues to herself doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense in a way. Like narratively, it doesn't. So I think that's why it feels more like just filler jargon. And plus, her voice to it isn't that great. So.
Yeah, I got like.
Sorry about this, guys.
You're okay. This one, there was the humor didn't hit in the same way as it kind of did in The Martian.
Yeah.
Like, not to say The Martian was like some paragon of humor where I was reading this thing where a guy was in trouble but he's laughing the whole time. Nothing like that.
Yeah, I guess the humor doesn't. I never read The Martian, so the humor. Jazz's character is tough for me. Like, I like what he's attempting to write, the, brash, ballsy, independent woman.
Mm-hmm. It's very much brass, ballsy, independent woman written by a cisgendered white male.
That's the part I was waiting for.
Yeah. That's what it is.
Because I'm like,
it very much is.
The inner monologue, like, I get real annoyed when, like, her inner monologue or her monologue breaking the fourth wall to the reader is like, I'm a girl. Like, you don't need to tell us. Like, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, I remember.
It's kind of sort of like, what? So I'm wearing pink today. I like girl things. Like,
mm-hmm.
No. There's nothing wrong with wearing pink.
I just get annoyed that, like, you can only be either very feminine, very demure, very rule-oriented, or very brash, very ballsy, absolutely no femininity, absolutely no emotions. Like, there doesn't seem to be any concept of in between.
No,
women live.
There's no purple in this red and blue Venn diagram.
This actually reminds me of something I found on a TikTok that an artist was doing on, and that this artist found a series of books or something that was called like, I'm not a princess, I want to be an astrophysicist. And the artist kind of went, why not both? Like, why not be a princess astrophysicist? Like, why can't you? And she drew this awesome astrophysicist princess character, and it was really cool, and I wish I remembered what her name was.
When I was a child, I distinctively wanted to be a model, a country music singer, and president of the United States. All at the same time.
You can do this.
I was going to be all three.
Yes. Yeah. I wanted to be a princess knight who also was a 00 agent.
You guys had way crazier goals. I'm basically like I'm doing like low-key versions of all the stuff that I wanted when I was a kid. So this is great for me.
But yeah, no, so I'm like, why does she have to be like, oh, I just, sex is sex? Like, yeah, it can be. But like, it feels very boxed. It feels very compartmentalized.
I think this is going ahead though, so never mind. Like, but I feel like now that makes sense to me. Reading further on, now her ideas on sex do make sense to me, and it's because of other things. Yeah, now it makes sense.
Yes, it does make a little bit more sense, but some of the other stuff doesn't make sense.
The other stuff, the random like just girl things, like don't make sense, and
even with the benefit of the whole book in my mind, I still think she's poorly written.
She's still very poorly written.
I will say though, I do kind of relate to her in that sense that like she's a person that is really good at things and is really smart, but she holds herself back because of the amount of times that people say, you would be so good at this, you would be so good at that. And like for me, the more that people say I'd be so good at something makes me feel like I'm never going to live up to that. So that's not that I would ever be a smuggler, but like but like at the same time, I'm like, I do relate to that. That is one of the things I have issues with is like not believing what people build me up to be, whether or not I actually could be that great. Like it doesn't matter. But
I get that one.
I did relate, and I did like that archetype of her character was that sense of like, oh, I am good at this. Like everybody's been telling me I'd be good at this, but oh, I actually am. Like
yeah. In this one, was like. Okay, well, I guess you were going to go back into plot stuff?
I was going to try and move us through some of the plot. So, find out Jazz is a porter / smuggler, and he's living in the cheapest of cheap apartments, which make me think of those Japanese capsule hotels.
I think
that's
exactly
very much what I
think that's what it is.
I think that's what it's intended to be. And so... we get introduced first to T-Dog. That's how I'm going to refer to him as. Because Tron,
too much like Tron and Thrawn put together, which is too many awesome sci-fi stories.
It's blue guy in a blue neon suit.
But in any case, she smuggles him some cigars, which are contraband because they're flammable.
Fire bad.
Fire very bad. And he is multi-billionaire. We discussed this, came to the moon for his daughter. And when she goes to take him his cigars, we get introduced to, I can't even remember his name. Japanese guy. Jin.
Oh.
I think.
Jin. And they're discussing some new product that she has no idea about, but she's curious because aren't we all? Like, if we're not supposed to know about something, that's exactly when we want to know about it.
Yeah.
And then we end up getting introduced to Rudy, right? Rudy, the security, the cop, the Canadian cop.
He's apparently super hot.
Who's apparently super hot and hates Jazz.
Yeah.
Just, he knows she's a smuggler. He gets so pissed. She kind of walks us around Artemis and the 5 different pods. So there's a cool map thing at the front of the book.
I did not get this map. They describe it, but I didn't see the map because the audiobook.
So hopefully I did that right. So then she ends up, after she has the really bad scotch, she ends up back at T-Dog's because he's got a plan to get her 1 million slugs, which are Artemis's currency.
Yeah, like so for anyone who's not reading the book, it's basically just it's like the credit you would trade in to ship something, and that's like the closest thing they have to currency. It directly translates to weight that you would ship.
Yeah, since technically this city is a corporation.
Yeah,
so
it's we've had these before. They're called corporate towns. They kind of usually suck.
Real bad.
Usually not great. And he proposes that if Jazz can figure out how to destroy so on Artemis, the big product, the thing that they produce is
aluminum.
Aluminum. I'm like, that's not right. It's aluminum.
It's aluminium if you're British.
Aluminium.
And the way they do that is by smelting. They harvest the rocks from the moon. They smelt it down in a smelter that's way off on the other side, because you don't want things blowing up and then blowing up your only livable habitat.
Yeah. But like in result from the smelting process, oxygen is created, and that's the oxygen that goes back to the Artemis bubbles and basically keeps people alive.
But the only reason that the smelter makes a profit on aluminum is because they don't have to pay anything, because they have the contract for the oxygen. Yeah. So T-Dog has been buying up a whole bunch of oxygen and storing it, and he's like, hey, if you figure out how to make them break their contract, I get to swoop in under that contract and be the big production person. Like, what? So Jazz not reluctantly accepts the offer. Like,
she at first was not going to do it, and then he said, I'll give you 1 million slugs, and she went, sold.
Yeah, immediately.
Not even like, no, do it.
She's a terrible negotiator. I'm like, if his opening offer is $1 million, like, you push,
what would his second offer be?
Like you push at least for 1.5. I'm sorry, that's the minimum.
1.25, anything. If you'll pay $1 million for it, you'll pay $1.5 million.
Right. Anyway, terrible negotiation tactics. But so she then spends a whole bunch of time trying to figure out how to make this work. So we then get introduced to Svoboda, a Hungarian, who's a scientist who agrees to help build a machine that she's designed in exchange for her testing out his reusable condom.
Yeah.
Not with him. He's
like, no, not with me. I just know you have sex. Next time you have sex,
try
this out. Let me see. Tell me how it is from the feel of a woman.
Yeah, as opposed to how much was it that cost normally for getting work from him? 2,000.
Yes.
Yeah. So she's like, okay, sure, yeah.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's weird. I don't think it'll sell, but like,
and then
sure.
he keeps like, he's like, well, have you had sex? It's been 24 hours, and I'm like, frequently, do you expect people to have sex?
Actually, there was a controversy here on Earth recently that involved people reusing and sterilizing condoms. Funnily enough, since the first time we recorded this. Yep.
The look on your face, Jessica, is priceless.
What?
Yeah, no, there was a whole like factory basically, and they had ways of. The ways they were okay to sterilize these things and to repackage them and everything like that. But
sustainability.
Yeah. It's sustainability. No, I hear you. Condoms are not sustainable at all. Like, but
they're more sustainable than unwanted pregnancies.
Yes,
it's true.
I would say.
So yeah, you nailed it, Andy Weir.
You nailed it. You got this one. And then there is a whole bunch of technical mumble jumble as she's trying to figure out the harvesters because she meets up with T-Dog and looks at one of the harvesters because they decide that the best way to do this is to blow up the 4 harvesters that collect the moon rock, then take it back to the smelter. So if they don't have any harvesters, they're going to have to ship them in, which is going to take multiple weeks because they have to be shipped from Earth. They'll break their contract.
They'll break their oxygen contract, yeah.
T-Dog will get to swoop in, seal the contract for everything. La-di-da-di-da.
When the time comes to do the plan.
Yes, but I was going to get first to... We then get introduced to Jez's dad.
Yes.
Who she apparently has a strained relationship with.
Papa Bushel.
And I'm going to guess that really obscure 426,000 some odd slugs has something to do with Dad.
Probably.
Yeah. That was that thing we all agreed on instantly.
Yes. Like, it's probably that. Because, like, you could tell the strange relationship was on her side more than her dad's side. Like, you could tell if she came back, her dad would be like, yeah, you're my daughter. Like, what?
Like that's the way this works.
Like he may be like a stern father, like, but he's definitely a father that would do anything for his daughter. Like,
yeah. But he's a welder, and so she needs welding equipment from him. And she plays it off that she needs it because she, yes, is doing illegal work, but she's helping a family build an airlock. So it's like Robin Hood kind of illegal activity. And then we also run into, there's this weird side log of the fire in the glass factory where we get this super technical about how they make an air tunnel into the airlock. And this was one of those things where I was just like, I mean, cool, but I'm going to just kind of like skim.
Yeah, and this was one of those things where I was like, ooh, cool, fire safety. What? Like, this is very awesome. So, like, this is going to be our footnote. I'll do it in the middle of the spiel. But so basically what happens is they have a fire in a factory that it's a glasswork factory, so it does have flammable stuff in it. And so what Artemis's plan is to, when a fire starts, alarms go off, people go into this airlock in the building in which they're basically safe with air while the fire burns around them. And then the fire can't get out of that area. So when it comes to saving those people from the fire, the volunteer firefighters, which apparently Jazz is one, so yeah, she actually is a good person. Look, she's not just a smuggler. She'll just rush in and save people. They sort of have to do this thing where they basically try to get absolutely zero air into the fire zone and they don't ever say the word because basically what happens is there's a fire and generally after about 2 minutes it's a fully involved fire. Flame is everywhere. And then the flames naturally dissipate because they no longer have oxygen, which is what fuels flames. Once they dissipate, if you introduce oxygen into that room again, fire will erupt into a massive explosion. And this is called a backdraft, which is like which it's probably weird to have, but it's like one of my favorite fires in general. There's like entire 1990s movies dedicated to backdraft, and it actually is one of my favorite movies.
One called Back?
Yeah, I was going to say, is that not the name of the movie?
Okay. It's called Backdraft, yes. And I absolutely love that movie. It is not fire accurate at all, but I still absolutely love that movie. But and
the firefighters are cute.
The firefighters are cute, but I learned a lot about, like, I watched it with my dad, who, also my dad happens to be a fire chief. That also might help. And I watched it with my dad, and my dad did teach me, like, the things that are realistic about it, and, like, the things, like, and this is gross, but he's like, it actually is a really good example of a burned body in it, too, which forever creeped me out, So basically what they're trying to do is prevent a backdraft from happening. So they create an airlock before they go into the actual room. They deplete air, so they have to do this in their EVA suits, which is why, I guess it's good Jazz still has her EVA suit. They go into the room with no air. Yeah, well, she fixed it right away, I guess. And she goes in there without air. They create a tunnel system from the people in the airlock out to the door that they've created, and sort of they introduce air into just that tunnel once they ensure there's no leaks, and they do that through their suits, and then the people can go from their little safety room and out. wild, and then they just close off that whole area until eventually it won't be a backdraft anymore. Eventually it just completely dissipates. But I thought it was the coolest thing. I went and bragged off to my dad, like, look, like, isn't this fascinating what they do? And my dad was like, that's the stupidest thing ever. What? And he's like, there's so many better ways to even prevent a backdraft from even happening in the first place. Like, you don't, like, if you can have people run to a little room in the big room, why can't they just run out of the room? And I was like, well, they need to seal it off because the fire could get out. And he's like, what about fire preventatives? He's like, they have massive foams that will work even in moon gravity. Just push down the thing, keep the fire from going. That, or you have an early alarm system that would give people plenty of time to get out of there before anything happens. So I just may force him, though, to read that part of the book just so he can get the whole picture, and then I'll get his second opinion on it, because maybe I just wasn't describing it well enough. Maybe there's some variable I was missing. Because Andy Weir is usually pretty good at researching stuff. So I was like, I feel like, well, maybe Andy did miss something. Maybe he didn't talk to the right fire expert or whatever. Or maybe he didn't do the right Google search. It happens as writers.
Or you just made the decision that,
it's cool.
and or it's going to apply for something in the future, like,
Yeah. Or like another thing that it could be is like, this is a moon city that's run off of a corporation that's from Kenya. Like, it could just be, why spend all the money on the expensive fire extinguishing foam that works?
We can lose a few people.
Just do this. Yeah. And it seems like they don't lose a lot of people in their fires. I mean, everybody was safe from this fire. I'm sure a glassworks fire, I mean, I imagine they're dealing with a lot of chemicals. They probably would spread pretty quickly. So it would be high heat too. So like,
reach out to us, Andy.
Reach out. Where'd you get your research from? I'm curious. Am I missing something? Is my father missing something? I don't know.
But in any case, so there's this glass fire, and then Jazz, and I'm only moving us forward because I'm afraid we're going to run out of time. For 45 minutes. And Stephen looks at me and goes, we're over 45 minutes.
I would never.
Not on camera, at least. But so she then puts her plan in motion. She has to put on a disguise so that nobody knows she goes out to the visitor center, which is where the original moon landing was, and then she sneaks out the little robot.
Yeah, she uses the robot to like be her eyes and hands outside.
Yeah.
She needs the robot to manually unlock it from the outside because she doesn't have the card to do it from the inside. And so she does this weird elaborate where she dresses up as a traditional Muslim visitor, pretends she loses her gizmodo, gets a hotel to give her a new one, goes out, she does the thing. And so she finally gets out to the harvesters where she starts, not gonna lie, but like the last 12 pages, I was like, this is painful.
She's trying to weld what is she trying to weld the engine closed so that it will overheat and that will cause an explosion. But the problem is, the first problem she has is that she realizes the moon doesn't have any oxygen, and as I've already said, you can't have flame without oxygen, so she has to find a way to create oxygen. I don't quite understand how she did it, but she did it. And the other problem she had was she can't put metal on her suit, because if she puts melted metal on her suit, that's a hole in her suit, and then she's gonna die. So that was rather like complications.
She does what would be like bare minimum basic stuff for a person who would have to normally do this stuff outside as an EVA guild member, but she is not yet one of those. So her welding experience is typically in an environment.
Well, except I also get the impression that like EVA guildmasters don't really weld outside. That's what that little robot was for.
I mean, that's a distinct possibility. Like they would certainly have other means of doing things for sure.
That's fair. But so she goes and she blows up the first one.
What she sets up the first one to become a time bomb to blow up later. But
and then she got caught. Yep. Yeah. One of the harvesters points their little camera at her, and she went, "Uh-oh." And that was it. That was where we ended.
That's where we ended.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like.
I mean, we can't really do predictions again. We'll have to dub over our predictions.
Who do you predict Kevlar was? I was right about the Kevlar prediction.
Kelvin?
Or Kelvin, Kevlar.
Yeah,
Kelvin.
don't get me wrong. The guy seems bulletproof. with the things that he decided to do in life.
I know. Yeah, no. I guess was wrong.
Say again?
My prediction was wrong.
Mine was right.
Yeah, you got that one. I don't think I had a prediction at this point.
I don't think
if at this point in the book, if I was reading this by myself as a library book, I would have had to have I would have put it down. I would have used up all my time that I would have had to finish the book. I would have had to check it out again to finish the rest of it because the beginning of it is so procedural.
Yeah, it's a little tedious. It definitely does pick up later on, and you're like, "Ooh, intrigue."
So much technical explanation, and yes, we get to the technical pieces that I really like towards the end of the book, so I'm fine with the very elaborate technical, but all the science technical, I'm like,
I even like that stuff. I love that stuff. I liked it in The Martian, but it's a slog in this one.
It's a slog. I'm like, we could have cut this down at least a couple paragraphs. Give me a paragraph of explanation. Do not give me 2 pages of explanation.
I feel like, let's see, how many pages is this? Because I feel like if you took out all that long jargon, this 300-page book would be 150 pages.
I do not disagree.
I feel like actually if you took it all out, it would make a great screenplay.
I mean, so actually that's a little bit of an interesting one. This book did sell to it got picked up for the movie rights before the book was even finished, if I remember correctly.
Because The Martian, it's not surprising at all anymore, but
yeah.
The Martian did so well, and that so Andy Weir just being the writer of another sci-fi thing would have been Hollywood would have wanted it.
Mm-hmm. For the audiobook is read by Rosario Dawson, which I feel was a soft casting, putting out feelers for her to actually be the actress for the movie. Mm-hmm. People who want her to play characters really want her to play characters for fan casting things on the internet. So it seems like money for that one.
Is she the one that's going to be on The Mandalorian?
That's the word on the street.
The word on the street is that she's Ahsoka.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have to check in with Geeks Watch at the end of the month to find out.
Hey.
That's true. Woo.
But yeah, so I don't know. I guess is that the main things to talk about for this one?
That's pretty much the main things for this one.
I think so.
I think we hit everything. So, dear listeners, this is the first part of Artemis, round 2.
The deuce.
The deuce. We apologize for discombobulation.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. You guys got to be here for the crazy fun times.
You did. You got to be here for the crazy fun times.
Did. Look at my awesome for the YouTubers. Yes, for the YouTubers. Look at awesome. I have a nice, awesome mic stand now that is going to be gone in the next few episodes. Only to come back significantly later on.
It's fine.
It's fine. I love it.
Jessica, where can people find you at to talk about your new mic stand?
Oh, you can talk about my new mic stand on Twitter as JMBaileyWrites.
And Stephen, where can people find you?
You can find me on my website, peppermintgentleman.com. You can find all my socials on there and look at my stuff while you're there.
It's very awesome.
Thank you.
And find me with the rest of Geek Elite Media at Geek Elite Media, Facebook page /Geek Elite Media. Archived episodes of this podcast and other podcasts are on geekelitemedia.com or your favorite podcatcher. As we said at pseudo the top of the show, please come join us on our Patreon. It is what allows us to continue to do these wonderful shows. And please rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast on whatever podcatcher you have. But until next time, this is The Love of Pages, reminding you to keep turning those pages and always remember to
geek out.
Geek out.